So in hearing about the vision for the foundation, we understand more about what the intent was. But of course, we've evolved and changed over 20 years, but we like to think that we've stayed true to the ideals of the founder, Jerry, and his family. We structure our work around what we call the invention pathway. That is inspiration, education, and incubation. Inspiration is to provide that spark, that germ of an idea in a young person that he or she can become an inventor. Education is to give them the skills they need to become an inventor, and incubation is to give them the mentorship and other resources they need to turn their ideas into products and businesses. This morning we're going to focus on the first two steps of the invention pathway, inspiration and education. And to do that, I'm going to introduce David Coronado. David joined the foundation recently as a program officer, but he had more than 10 years of experience before that as executive director of Oregon Mesa Math, Engineering, and Science Achievement. As executive director of Oregon Mesa, he was responsible not only for creating an outstanding invention education program, but he was also a Lemelson Foundation grantee, so he knows us quite well. Please join me in welcoming David Coronado.
Thank you. Well, hello. It's so great to come out here and talk about an issue that I'm really always passionate about, and that is how do we engage our youth. You know, in this particular part of the program is how do we inspire a new generation of inventors, and how do we educate them with the tools necessary for them to be successful inventors. For Jerome and Dorothy Lemelson, this was really critical to their mission, and really critical, they felt, to what was our U.S. economy. You know, Jerome Lemelson stated in 1995, when the first LemelsonMIT Prize Award ceremony, he stated that the most important investment that we can make is an investment in the capacity of American men and women to generate brain power, the critical natural resource of our 20th century. You know, how do we get these creative juices flowing? By providing educational programs that not only nurture intellect, but challenge youth to directly apply what they learn to new products, to new processes, to new enterprises, and to undertakings that really truly enrich our nation. While Jerome and Dorothy Lemelson felt that all people can be inventors, unfortunately not everyone knows they can be an inventor. This is what we talk about in our inspiration work. In this particular part of the work, we really try to show young people what invention is about, and to really show how that invention can really inspire and improve the lives of others, but also it can actually improve their own. This vision of creating a whole new generation of inventors was critical to the founding of some of the initial partnerships through the Smithsonian and the creation of the Lemelson Center for the study of invention and innovation and the original LemelsonMIT Prize Program. I wanted to take a second because we have such a variety of prize program winners here in the audience today. Would you please, if you have ever been touched by the LemelsonMIT program or Smithsonian, please take a moment to stand up. Thank you very much. It's so amazing to see how many people have been touched by these institutions. I'm great to be joined by this panel here by Jeff Brodie here and Michael Cima. Jeff Brodie is a deputy director for the Lemelson Center. You know, he has curated some very important exhibits, including the Star-Spangled Banner, the flag that inspired our national anthem. Joined here also by Michael Cima. He's a professor of materials science at engineering at MIT. He is a faculty director for the LemelsonMIT program. He's a recognized expert in the field of materials processing. He's an entrepreneur, including co-inventor of the 3D printer. He's currently on to 56. He corrected me because I looked at his website. He was at 36. Now he's at 56 patents. So we're very excited to have us joined by this panel. Give us a warm welcome to our panel, please. Thank you. You know, Michael, I'd like to start with you. You know, Jerome Lemelson talked about this germ of idea coming to fruition when the LemelsonMIT program was established. You know, for him, this was a realization of really promoting inventors to the level that really the world can admire and respect them. Tell us what it was like to have Jerome and Dorothy Lemelson come into MIT and to start this great program.
Well, I wish I could say I was there. I wasn't present when this started, but I did become a part of it 8 years ago. And so I've had a chance to kind of review the history of the program there. The thing that has stayed the same throughout that time is recognizing individual inventors. And just like we heard earlier in the earlier panel, the whole idea was to show behind all the products we enjoy are individuals with a germ of an idea. And so we continue to celebrate that.
Now, I'd love to turn to you, Jeff. I mean, the Lemelson Center was started some time ago. It was great to have Art Malala come up and give us a little bit of history about the starting of the Foundation Center. Give us a broad overview. A lot of our people are not familiar with the center. Give us a broad overview of what the center does, and how do you engage in this work?
Sure, thank you. I'd be really happy to share some of the flavor of the center and the work that we do. And I think we started in 1995 when Jerome and Dorothy endowed the center, and ever since that time, we've been serving as the Smithsonian's leading center and leading research organization for the study of invention and innovation. And those of us who are part of this center, we share this committed ideal to increase the public's understanding and appreciation of the power of invention and the power of inventors to change the world around us. And by exploring invention and innovation in a historical context, we demonstrate that invention and innovation are deeply embedded in the fabric of human life, past, present, and future. And through all of our programs and activities, we want to inspire and empower and equip the public, particularly young people, with the knowledge and the tools and the skills that they're going to need so that they can exert real control and real influence in shaping their future. And if I may, I would share some of the programs and activities that we do. So in this pursuit to achieve these goals, we engage in a number and a broad array of activities, which include scholarly programs, and we contribute our own research to the body of knowledge. We provide fellowships and internships to encourage the next generation of scholars who will work on this. That scholarship is used as the basis of our convening of organizations and symposia. We use that research and foundation to identify new archival collections for the institution. We use it as the basis of all of our exhibitions and our public programs. And our public programs are designed to bring inventors in direct engagement with the public. So our Innovative Lives is all about having inventors meet with young people so the inventors can tell in their own words why and how they became an inventor, what motivated them. So the inspiration message is direct. We have our Spark Lab and our education programs, which are all designed to provide hands-on opportunities for young people to engage in the invention process. And we host large public festivals, such as the Impacting Invention Showcase tomorrow. And our next weekend, we'll be doing an innovation festival with the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office. So these are large-scale grand events to engage the public. And I'll just add that we do these things beyond the walls of the museum. It's really important and critical that we reach a national audience and have local impact everywhere we can. So we work with museums to install Spark Labs as part of a national network locally in museums. We take our festivals and work with museums to host them in local communities. We worked with the National Science Foundation to take our Places of Invention project, the exhibition you'll see tonight, and work with museums to increase their capacity to study their own communities as places of invention. And I'll just sort of conclude that what I think is really inherent in all of that work is the human dimension of invention. We really focus on the independent inventor. And though we celebrate and we applaud the efforts and the contributions that the inventors make to society, at the same time, we want to demystify the invention process and make it accessible to people. And I think when we do that and when we strike that balance, we're really fulfilling Jerry and Dolly's vision most fully. And we want people to understand through that process that invention is so important and inventors are so powerful, but at the same time, they themselves possess that capability and ability to invent and be inventive in their own lives.
I mean, Michael, the LemelsonMIT program was really established as well to celebrate inventors, to really popularize them. Over the years, it started with the LemelsonMIT Prize program that was really focused on career inventors, but then it moved to even earlier and celebrating young inventors. Why is that important? Tell us a little bit more about that program. How do we celebrate?
Well, that's right. The original idea was sort of a career award to recognize people that had a portfolio of inventions their entire career. And then as people looked at the intent of this was to inspire young people, the thinking was that maybe if we could start to recognize younger people, there would be a greater chance for inspiring the youngest of us to become inventors. And as well as possibly have a greater impact on the award winners, because we could catch them toward the beginning of their careers. And I think there's data to support that. If you think back to, or if you have children, you probably recognize in them that they look at people their own age or even slightly older than them in a different way than people with thinning hair and graying hair. And so I think that it made sense, and I think we've seen in the data that we've looked at since then that this is the way to go for trying to inspire young people.
That's great, and we'll get to see a little bit more of our student prize winners that are here today.
Yes, you will.
So, Jeff, you mentioned Spark Lab already, and it's really engaging this younger audience, right? It's a center that's with the Spark Lab is within the Lemelson Center. Mm-hmm. It's the only place where in the Smithsonian Institute where students can really come in and be hands-on, and especially in Invention. Tell us how the Spark Lab has come about, and what impact have you seen in the students and families that come through your doors?
Sure, and I'll have to amend your comment because since the establishment of Spark Lab, other areas of the Smithsonian have followed that model to create new spaces that allow for hands-on activities. Spark Lab is a truly extraordinary space in the museum. We're very proud of it. It's an area that kids and their families, we target ages 6 to 12, can come into our space and engage in the invention process and invent. And there's 3 sort of underlying key messages within Spark Lab, and that one is invention is a process, and we want the visitors to engage in that process. Second is that everyone can be inventive. It doesn't mean everyone is going to become an inventor, but we want to inspire and empower young people to realize that they can be inventive in their own lives. And third, that invention and innovation has always been and will continue to be an integral part of American history. And so the idea for Spark Lab came about sort of in 2006, 2007. The museum was closing for a first round of renovations, and the Lemelson Center proposed to take an existing hands-on science center and transform it into an invention-based hands-on activity space. And so unlike a traditional science center, which has very specific learning objectives, very specific outcomes that are intended to be conveyed through directed experiments, we wanted to create an experience that focused on identifying a problem to be solved and being open to the idea that the solutions were many and varied. And so we opened the first Spark Lab in 2008. It was open for about 3 years, and it closed for the next round of renovations, the result of which you'll see tonight. And we reopened in July of this year, our new reimagined Spark Lab, and in 2 months we've welcomed 65,000 visitors into our space. So in Spark Lab, the experience is arrayed around a number of activity stations. And the activity stations are tied to themes, such as things that roll and things that make sound. And by doing that, we get to introduce the collection. So on things that make sound, you get to sort of interact with Eddie Van Halen's guitar and tap shoes and things like that. Things that roll, you get to see Tony Hawk's skateboard, and you get to see Julia Child's rolling pin and those kinds of things. And so what the evaluations tell us, though, is that the kids and the families in the space are identifying problems and setting goals and inventing solutions to those problems. They are practicing 21st century skills such as collaboration and flexibility and communication. They are understanding that throughout our history, Americans have used their imaginations and their creativities to solve problems, and that they're appreciating that invention is a process where sort of failure and resilience are critical components. And I think most importantly, visitors are telling us that they are self-identifying themselves as inventive thinkers and problem solvers.
That's wonderful. I mean, we heard kind of on the film earlier that Jerome Lemelson stated that even if 100, even 10 or one person became a successful inventor because of the investment in the Lemelson Smithsonian partnership, that it would be a success. I mean, you guys have done that and much more. I know the center has just underwent a major renovation and just opened this past July, and it sounds like to an amazing already response. Can you tell a little bit about more what we can experience tonight at the reception and even Saturday?
Sure. So since 1964, the museum has served the American people and people from throughout the world as the central location to explore the richness and the complexity of the American experience, all of its accomplishments and all of its struggles. And over the past several years, the museum has been engaged in both a physical and an intellectual renovation of the spaces and how we tell these critical stories. And because the museum's original origins was as the National Museum of History and Technology, and because it's the home to the Lemelson Center, it's really the perfect place to tell stories of ingenuity and creativity and imagination, which are all hallmarks of the American character. And so on July 1st of this year, the museum reopened its new innovation wing, which is 45,000 square feet of renovated public space in the museum that features 9 new exhibitions, a public plaza and a stage for performance and demonstrations, and a conference center that's all dedicated as this arena to discuss the importance of invention and innovation. So for us, obviously, the highlight is the new Jerome and Dorothy Hall of Invention and Innovation, which houses our 3 new public spaces. First of which is Spark Lab, which you'll see tonight and experience. The second one is our Inventive Minds Gallery, which is a space where that talks about the work of the Lemelson Center. And it really lets the inventors, through videos and through archival materials and through objects that they created, tell their own stories to the American public about their invention activities. It's also a space that we highlight Jerry and Dolly's vision for creating the Lemelson Center back in '95. And the third space in our major new exhibition is Places of Invention, which is an exploration of why over time throughout the history of the United States, certain regions within the country become particular hotspots of invention. So what is it about that place at that time, and what comes together in terms of the people and the resources and the environment that causes these places to become such inventive hotspots? And so through the case studies we present there, as well as case studies that visitors can add through an interactive map, we take a look at some of those things. So we are super excited. We're so excited to welcome you tonight, and we're really excited to show it off to you.
Wonderful, looking forward to it. I mean, Michael, I wanted to turn to you because we got you on stage. You know, you're an accomplished inventor, you're an entrepreneur, you're a co-inventor of the 3D printer, which has revolutionized the world. I know some students are really excited to meet you. They're like, the co-inventor of the 3D printer is here. You know, in talking to you, I've heard some wonderful stories of you talking about growing up on the farm and your pathway to becoming an inventor. And there's a lot of people out there who feel like they could never be an inventor, they could never be Michael Cima. Can you tell us a little bit about your pathway and kind of how did you come to be?
Well, yeah, I laugh when you say farm because I grew up in a part of the country where they called them ranches, even though I think any place else they were farms. And my parents didn't own a farm, but I lived in a very rural part of California. And you know, farms and I suppose every small business are breeding grounds for 2 traits that I think are really important for an inventor. And that is, the first is you have to improvise, learn how to improvise. When the hydraulic hose breaks on the tractor and you're paying 30 guys to pick fruit and they can't pick it because the tractor's not working, you start inventing very quickly. And then the second part is learning that risk is something that is good. Learning how to manage risk is important, but unless you venture something, you won't gain anything. And that's true of every small business, that an entrepreneur needs to understand that they're going to venture into the unknown if they're going to make something that nobody else has made before. Mm-hmm. And so I think that was a big part for me growing up as being very important. But the last thing I would just say is a mentorship. I was very lucky to have, 3 or 2 teachers that greatly influenced my life in science, technology, and I still stay in touch with them. They're still around, if you can believe it. And those high school teachers were extremely important to making me an inventor.
Yeah, and so I mean, we're joined by so many different types of people. What message do we have for our audience here about what can they do to really, inspire a new generation of inventors? What role can they play?
Well, encourage young people to take risks. A lot of our society is you want to guarantee a spot in college, and you want to guarantee a spot in the best school, and guarantee a job, and there are no guarantees.
That's right. I mean, and one of the things that in terms of, we'll talk a little more in the education program, is in the educational environment, risk is not accepted. The word failure, I've had some teachers say, you can't even use the word fail. We often say, fail often to succeed sooner.
Yeah.
And folks have told us, you shouldn't even use the word fail.
Yeah. Well, you need to learn how to fail gracefully, I guess, is the way to do it. But I think we have some teachers in the audience. I think we should recognize them because they are our pathway to making this kind of change happen. So I'd like to just recognize teachers.
Thank you, Michael and Jeff, both for kind of sharing your reflections about, how do we inspire this new generation of inventors, and really talking about some of the original programs that the Lemelson Foundation has started many, many years ago. I know this evening we're going to learn a lot more about the Smithsonian Institute and its programs, and even on Saturday, we hope you will all join us on Saturday to hear that particular program. We now really want to celebrate some of the original LemelsonMIT Prize winners. If you're in the room, would you please stand?
It's hard for us to see.
Yeah.
There we go.
Thank you so much. We're very happy to have you join us today. And Jerome Lemelson's vision, he really wanted to promote and inspire you to a success that others could see you in the world and popularize you just like a Spider-Man would be in this world. I would like to take a moment, and we have a slideshow to show a little bit about 20 years of history of our LemelsonMIT Prize winners. Thank you, Jeff and Michael.
Thank you.